Assalamu alaikum. And today is the first of the September, and I just have my breakfast. And last night, as per my daily routines and my working hours are out of way because of the public disabilities. When I observe the public disabilities from leave apart, that is not the topic today, because as a humanitarian lawyer I observe that the issues of the output and over reproduction of the females, and after generating of the values, the questions under the humanitarian topic is very vast. One should be very reserved as to understand the humanitarian observation regarding the execution of the rights to the same. In fact, when a person become this is I'm just talking about the genetical disorder in the Pakistan. This is my favorite topic of these days, because I'm becoming the lordship, and I'm already became the lordship, so I have to observe that fact as well. As to composure of the a lot of problems of the public sector, what I just observed from the one decade, that the public along with the having the a lot of the troubles and considering the others, they I'm total, and I always convinced to be have the observation of the same. The concept of the love and affection in the public sector is not understood by me. If anyone in the public sector is found to raising the plea of the love and affection, that would be deferred as well. With effect to the Article 184 of the Supreme Judicial Council, which would have been the factors which led me into consideration of the observation of the Republicans disable issues. First, let's suppose, so today I'm going to suppose everything over my shoulder, because public always consider that I'm not having to observe the conviction rate of the economy. This term should have been explained by this advanced comparative constitutional advocate Gulraiz King, that what is the difference between the conviction of the economy and the acquittal from the liabilities. When a person is suffering from the conviction of the economy, while the acquittal from the liabilities and having the reciprocate responsibilities under the shelter of the third person, what comes the next then? The female's overgrowth issue thereafter. The my question always have the global issue in the Pakistan. When the females have been produced a lot in the quantity, and there is a genetical erroneous error, and there is a poverty factor in the public sectors, this thought is not observed by this lordship, that if the females were being produced and had produced by the men dominant societies with having the safeguard, or to safeguard their self, their genes, I'm not willing to understand that as well. When the public itself is found to raising the burden to the grandparent and the grandmother, because everyone has the guilty in association. So what is the problem with that, that we are not willing to understand that? If the females were being produced, and if the females were not being produced, and if the marital wrong ceremonies were occurred, I'm not talking about the right ceremonies here. So my concept is the global concept for the reformed sense of the public as well, that after a reproduction of the a lot of females today, the females destinations, because such females trying to have the proper reconciled modes of assessment of the males, but the rich males are not willing to have the females of the poor class, because the concept beside is that when you become very rich, you don't have the sufficient time for the self existence. You don't have the measurable issues to recall your self observation regarding your existence. You don't find your self existence in the remaining areas of the public sector. That is a public concept which should have been reserved to the republic as to understand their self existence. Meanwhile, when I was observing the judicial interpretation by myself during my life existence, I just have that motto, and every surrounding of myself observed that they consider that I have no idea regarding the ideology of the local inclined thoughts of anyone. They consider that, but I was not considering it. Why I was ignoring that? Because they thought. Meanwhile, when I just observe again the a lot of the sentimental disorders and the tissue disorders and the observations of the Republicans regarding their self-esteem, the over reproductions of the females. My last night topic was that the over reproduction of the females and the guilt of association of over whom. And when a person is very successive in the amounts of the observations regarding the existence of the females, there is the next concept of the observations of the non-observation females. When the females, I just raised a landmark obligation in the Pakistan, that in Pakistan it is an apparent issue that the chipku type of females are found in every sector, because such females have no point of resolutions regarding the existence of the same. So when I was observing all these factors regarding the public sectors, regarding their self-extinguishment of not having the liabilities from their ancestors' defection, their ancestrals under the defections of the subordination of not having the possession of any sort of thing, and that their children want to have the existence. So when I observe all these issues after just observing the autospy, autospies, I'm not I'm always very liable person regarding my self existence. I always just myself execute myself into the technology and ultra technology, as well as to observe the humanity declined position, but the humanity declined position always reciprocate the liabilities to the others. So whenever you just watch the telecasting show, what you just come across to your eyes, that the operative lines in the telecasting shows and the operative lines of the constitutional issues in the Pakistan apparently posing to be a next challenge for the public sector in the Pakistan. The Republicans are trying to convince their family as to having the ascertainment of the true profits out of the public sector. That is not going to happen anyway. When you were not willing to extend any right to anyone, then why the hell you want a right from the other? The fabrication of the storytelling is not accommodated in my judicial court of justice and the lordship. I am never admiring any fact of the ignorance of the Republican defamation as well. If the Republicans were very busy, I have nothing to deal with that. If they have casted a lot of issues, I have nothing to deal with that. If they are not willing to understand, because I, from my early ages, I'm the person in the whole of the Pakistan, as I said so many times, that have produced a lot of digital laws by its shoulder without the reciprocate uh, constructive thinking of the other side. I was just reciprocating myself in the observation of my self existence with having all liabilities and all laws over my shoulder. There is no bastard Pakistani Indian who just consider me to write those laws in the perfection. Today, I would be discussing the Lahore applied petitions, but that why I always dislike the public. What is the rationale behind that? The public said that this advanced comparative advocate don't like us. There are several reasons beside this, and I'm trying to convince that same republic through that when their females are booked under the charge of the offences in the Supreme Court, in the High Court, in the other reciprocate areas of the observation, they just sell that statement through the confession that they were poor. If they were poor and they are poor, then I'm not of that opinion to have the accommodation of their poverty. That is not my point of law. When they just observe that the other side is not inclined with their self, they just want to have the fabrication of the life as well. The accommodation of the life to the second part is not a point, but the point is that the reflection of the observation lines of the other side is a point to contest the elimination points of the same, is a point to be the remainder group. The ultimate challenges in the Pakistan is a task line that which the Pakistanis are not willing to observe. They don't like to work under the economic sector because the economy sector is very hard to get motivated by the shoulders of the other party. They don't have the capacitated problems and solutions. They don't consider any sector to refined there. They don't consider anyone. And they have the politicians, such bastard politicians, I take them on my dick. The concept is that I'm very powerful regarding the execution of the laws. So the quest behind all these issues, that if they're uneducated types of the politicians are found in the public sector as to yelling over the public street as to accommodate the Pakistani and Indians, that what the fuck they claim, they thieves, everyone. Not a single politician is found they are thieves. And I just figured it out by myself. So when I just figured it out that through the a lot of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2010 and the other reciprocate laws, likewise I have to the Mental Health Ordinance 2002. Today I would be discussing the cases of the Mental Health Ordinance 2002. When I was in the obligations of the surcharge amounts of the limited groups of the liabilities as to educating my neurology, that what happens with the Pakistani females and males after not expecting the restoration of the physical and chemical exchange of their negative exchange of the chemicals inside their bodies. They just become, they fall. And today, as a matter of not judicial grace, every third Pakistani whenever come in the Supreme Court violate the Article 199 trying to turn down the Article 184, the advocate of the same is always found via the reference order with having the cleric that his client is suffering from unnatural offenses, unnatural diseases. And a lot of the females were found to be overcharged with the fucking in the chambers of the lawyers. I just figured it out. That was the precedent in custom in the Lahore High Court and surrounded lawyers' chambers in the Pakistan, that they were booked, they were charged under the offenses of the applied physical tortures to the females, youngsters. When I figure these precedents in the whole of the Pakistan, I became lordship by myself. When I observed that the females try to become the lawyers in the Pakistan, but when I just observed their stamina regarding the performance of the observation of the said phraseology of the laws, the said females were not in the positions to confine the uh, accurate line and length of the actual observation of the same subject lines in the judicial lines because of their poverty sectors. So I just raised there an other humanitarian observation point under my personal orthodox thought regarding the vendetta of myself. Thereafter, I should drink water. When I was in the Lahore High Court from year 2016 towards 2021, and because 2022 as well. The quest beside that, when I just observed the young lawyers, females which are joined the chambers of the lawyers and are found in the public sector in the local streets, that such females don't have the sufficient balance of convenience in their bank accounts. And such lawyers just want the services of the females in the Pakistan. I observed the situation of the same, so I was bound to dictate the law regarding the said females in the Pakistan. And that's the way I just wrote a lot of the laws compulsively without the help of any Pakistani bastard. Any Pakistani bastard. Why I call them bastard? Because they are. They when the lawyers itself have the females from the urban areas in their chambers, likewise surrounded by the Lahore High Court, where the judicial judgments have to be narrated, and thereafter the females are being booked under the same offences against whom the such females have to pronounce the applied judgments in the Lahore High Court. Thereafter, who is conducting the trial or who is commencing the trial of the said humanity is a question of the self-existence of the same, as per my criminal trial of the Lahore High Court as well. try to safeguard yourself. The concept beside all these, when I was observing the conditional barriers of the Lahore High Court and their females in the Lahore High Court, that such females were charged with the offences of a lot of troubles within the Lahore High Court, and I was accustomed to observe that in the said Lahore High Court territory, I'm talking about the territories of the surrounded Lahore High Court divisions, not subdivisions here. The divisions of the Lahore High Court and their chambers built surrounded with the Lahore High Court appears itself to be a point of a reflection of the, you can say that, Sahulat Kari for the criminal misappropriation under the Police Order 2002, compulsive in nature, as per our finding. The concept beside all these depictions comes forward that when I just put myself that how if a female just who just joined the law reform union as to represent a cause of action in the favor of the humanity in the prime social lower high court, what happens the same? I put myself as a male, I put myself in the same shoe during day and night in order to observe the feelings of the said females, and I was totally out of the balance of my brain cells. This is very true depiction of myself. The concept beside all these issues, when I just observed that those females which are in Pakistan and from the rural areas, I have sympathy for them. Being a highly practitioner, I have sympathy for them. Those females join the law after completion of the law, but such females want to earn for the remainder proportion of their family in the Lahore High Court or surrounded by the Lahore High Court. But the individuals or the persons surrounded around the Lahore High Court are not individuals, are not humans. They are in the position of insolvency, and that's the way they just want the females to be insolvent. That's the way the rural come urban immigrant wants the incomes and expenses through the education. You thought that I'm fool? But the concept and the quest of restoration of the same is not an objected line hereafter. The concept is behind all these dilemmas of the humans decaying positions, that when there is a chamber and their chamber have a price tag to pay, your female if is in the chamber, then it is not a chance there that she was not being fucked everywhere, because out of watching of the public sector, because the Pakistani blood is very bad. The concept beside that, 90% blood. The concept beside that is that they have the issues regarding the consumption of the females. They consider the females to be a consumptive a commodity. That is my personal, you can consume that fact, my personal observation regarding the deflection points of the females areas. So when I was myself observing these contesting point of the female surrounded in the Lahore High Court, and I was totally embarrassed to observe those young females, that those young females after completion of their LLB degrees or LLM or even the highly qualified degrees are found in the public sector as to represent a cause of action in the subdivisions or the divisions of the Lahore High Court. Thereafter, what I comprehend with that point is my alarming question that during the dramatic issues, during the a lot of issues thereafter, I observed that during my practicing area in the high court and surrounded area, the females were not in the position, the females were overcasted, and the females were trying to convince themselves that such females will have the point of living. But I was totally ashamed to observe that the females don't have the point of self-existence. Such females were just overcharged with the criminal males, with the urban come rural criminal males. So when the collateral inclined point of the females within the domains of the Lahore High Court becomes an operative point, what comes the next is my outstanding liability of judicial impeachment of the reference order to the Supreme Judicial Council via the Article 184 of the Constitution of the 1973, as to understand the consideration level of the performance of the duties under the inclined point of the females, that what is the area which just based interest with the restoration observation physical incapacities of the females in the public sector, as just my observations are very bleak regarding the observation point of the same subjective matter. So I was basically observing the physical intangible incapacities of the those females which are production of the Vulnerable Establishment Act 2015 within the sector of the applied sciences in the every department reciprocate to the Supreme Judicial Council under the High Court. So when there are over liabilities of the billings and the public is after the billings and they don't have the expenses to pay off their self, they have low self-esteem there as well. So I consider that if the females have the point of living there, the living of the females become expensive everywhere. The expenses are not being met by the ordinary males. Then what is the purpose of the existence of the self-esteem of that female in the Pakistan? Today it is not settled precedent. I'm totally contravention of that opinion as well under my advanced statement that if someone says that a female is very valuable, that is not my statement. As a lordship, I'm not willing to understand that. Might be, might be a female is very realistic, but it depends how she was groomed in her house, that depends. But if a female was groomed in hate speech, in hate culture, thereafter there is no chance that the concept of the same is not derivated in the public sector as per my finding. If the females were not groomed under the love and affection inside their houses, thereafter such females, if we found working in the official capacities, such females will reflect the hate speech in the said sector as well, as per my judicial findings of the 1st of the September in the Supreme Judicial Council via the video linkage in even in the International Court of Justice. Today, as a humanitarian lawyer of as a top lawyer of the whole of the Pakistan, that I observed that Pakistani females and the Indian females are 90%. I am not taking here the 10 rest of the same. That 90% of the same are suffering from issues, and their males are also suffering from issues. So I was representing the cause of action of those females, which females are appointed around the Lahore High Court and having the company of the bad individuals. Today, it is another issue under the Narcotics Act that if the victim of the narcotics is found in the public sector, what happens the next? If you are doing any activity in your personal capacity, your private capacity, that is not a fact, that is not an issue. The issue remains here and apparent on the extreme line yardsticks that in the public sectors, the females, when those females which are out of the houses, which are out of the urban areas, as per my findings, so many times I told this question that those females who just want to earn income, yes, any female who just want to earn income through the hard work is found in the public sector, and such female just want to extend a liable uh, information. I'm totally trying to convince myself that if the females in the Pakistan in the public sector are trying to convince that their males were in the impulsive nature of the commodities to the said females, thereafter which factor leads such females in the public sector is my landmark judicial observation via the Article 184 to every Pakistani female male who is residing within the Pakistan Court of Justice as to show their face, self-esteem, their self-existence as to what their political drives have done with that subjected matter as well. The judicial grace of the justice. When I speak, the words itself become the words of the law. The concept beside all issues that the females have the issues with the issues, and the concept beside the derivation of those females have no point in the Pakistan. The Pakistani females, I said that 90%. If we found in the public sector as to represent a cause of action in return of the cash valuations, the cash valuation do not have the encashment list in the working routines, those females would have been found as to not having the possession of the entitlement of the true impeachment of the laws and orders. Some females after having the divorces as so a lot of the divorces repatriations, I said that this is an abusive issue in the Pakistan. When I observed that the divorcee repatriation issue in the Pakistan raised, no Pakistan is willing to observe that, because the males of the Pakistan are out of their memory, because they're senseless, they're baseless 90%. The concept beside all these issues that when I observe that the contesting point to eliminate the Article 199 in the whole of the Pakistan, that the decided disposal of the writ petition of the same subject line is being objected with this advanced comparative duty judicial officer as well. Today I take the charge of the duty judge as to not observing the Republicans and as to try to not observe the economy of the same subject line. 90% have low economy, because when I observe the low self-esteem of the same after reproduction of the over rotation of the females, they expect the votings from the same females and rotating the same females, and they don't want to have the reciprocate liabilities of the same females in the household appliances of the subject matter. And when all of these depictions of the facts have been found in the public sector, what they appeal in the public sector is the mercy petition. And most of the times when the early petitions are being acknowledged in the Lahore High Court, what they expect is the normalcy of the human beings. The females are suffering from a lot of issues out of the poverty. The males are also suffering from a lot of issues. When the both factors and the sectors of the global threats are suffering from a lot of actions, thereafter, which are the elements and which were the elements which lead the Pakistanis into the public surrender deeds. So I just today I would like to discuss that the Pakistanis are profound as to contesting those issues which have no point of reliance to the same in the perfect lines in existence. When I observe that the ultimate challenges of the females in the Pakistan, thereafter I observe the concept of the bastardity, the concept of the lack of the confidence, the excess amount of the confidence, the slow speech control management disorder, the high pace and the blood pressure relationships. Today, I would be discussing the high blood pressure marriages discoveries. So, the question beside that, the high blood pressure marriages discovery in the Pakistan is the top listed question of the Pakistan today. The Pakistanis are found after the having the leverage of the high blood pressure, they just have the reciprocate area of the marital solutions to the same subject lines under the their females lie, their males lie, their every sector lie in return of the impeachment of the self-reliance. When you just ask any true point of living of the same, they just try to cross inspect yourself. The females would not have been provided the right because of the auto mobilization of the said females into the triangles of their these females personal love affairs. These females have been channelized by the males even in the outcasted custodial non custodial issues as well. In some rare cases, it is found that the females are willingly recording the pornographic videos with the males in return of the marriage. In the urban come rural areas and the rural come urban areas in the Pakistan, as a central provincial observant in the Pakistan, I observe this factor, so I just observe that disclosure. When the males are not having the compilations of the true impeachment of the political areas of the concept of restoration observations of the females, thereafter what the hell the said females are doing in the public sector as to contest the elimination point of the science and wisdom of the males in the compilations orders. When the females are suffering from a lot of issues in the Pakistan in the public sector, it means that her parents and her males are not there to help her reciprocate area of living as well. When collective issues of the collateral deferred positions of the prompt area always negate that section, thereafter which applied area would have been considered in the public sector is my prime social observation of today. When I observe thereby the concept in the contravention of the existence of the elimination of points of extreme line of the public defaults, the public deficit problem is not a outstanding question which always resist with me. The concept beside all these transitional and non-transitional areas of existence of the Republicans always just be held within the area in the central Pakistan. Yes, the central Pakistan, the females 90% are not in the position. The 90% females are being treated in treated males. And when I observe their male position, their economy is very low. Yes, these are my prime consideration of 1st September 2022 in the whole of the Supreme Judicial Council while this video linkage under the Kanun Shahadat Order Article 62A information recorded through the offline and online material particulars, that there would be no advocate, there would be no judge individual who would say that he would not out of the poverty there, and if they be found in the casting of the votes in favor of nothing and in favor of cash values, I will conduct the FIA teams and NAB teams over their properties. Every lawyer, every doctor, every engineer, and thereby their properties would be seized in my personal bank account, and they will be killed in the hospital, in the police station as well, because I'm the lordship of the Lahore High Court. Stay blessed.